The title of Kagurabachi Chapter 61 is Night Battle. The cover page features a three-way crossing of sheathed enchanted blades. Enten, Tobimune, and Kumeyuri represent the current deadlock. On November 13th at 11:20 a.m., Chihiro sat in front of a cafe, suited up with his new squad. They spoon-fed him, wiped his mouth, and poured his drink. They're already fussing over him like they had with Samura. And considering their current attire, our boy looks like a total boss. According to the Masumi commander, this is just how they do things. For now at least, he is their new master. Chihiro said that they're too overprotective. The commander pointed out that Chihiro still isn't totally healed, but the young man argued that he can at least feed himself. And true enough, unlike their previous master, who was blind, Chihiro was actually the one who tended to these sorts of things with his father. So he's more than capable of handling these sorts of tasks himself. The Masumi were pleased to know that, but didn't change their stance. Then the commander asked if there's any new information on Uruha, but there wasn't. The commander understood why the forensics team was having a hard time. After all, it's not as if they'd have much experience dealing with someone who's had an enchanted sword contract for 18 years. The other Masumi man chimed in that they just need to know if he's dead or alive. For a series like this one where death is so commonplace, the fact that there's a question at all gives me the impression that he is in fact alive. We've seen just how competent of a fighter Uruha can be even without Kumeyuri, so him showing up just in the nick of time at a later pivotal point would be glorious. Samura spared Chihiro while momentarily taking his life. Uruha was his student and had nothing but admiration for the guy anytime he mentioned him. So with that capability in mind, a similar situation is to be expected. But the commander reminded Chihiro of what Shiba said, that they better not get their hopes up. The harsh reality made Chihiro look down. And here we have another look at the various scrapes and bruises on his face. Again, Chihiro is not in the best shape, but he knows that he has to do something. The commander decided to take stock of the situation at hand. At the moment, Kamunabi, Hisaku, and Samura are in a three-way deadlock. Kamunabi sent their team to take some sort of preemptive action. While Chihiro was recovering, they searched as much as they could, but didn't find anything connected to the Hisaku. It was as if the rampage from 3 days ago never happened. The other guy pointed out that the group has been laying low for 4 years, so tracking them down in only 2 wasn't very realistic. Prior to the beginning of the series, Chihiro spent a long time searching for them to no avail. It makes me wonder if they have some sort of sorcery related to non-detection, or even another extra-dimensional space of their own. However, the information they gained from Hirohiko was pretty major. He at least was quite the chatterbox. Meanwhile, Samura left them the biggest trail possible. Owl, the enchanted blade detector, was still high in the sky even before noon. It's to be noted that regular people probably can't see it. Kind of like how Hakuri wasn't aware of his own registration until his father activated it. Otherwise, this sort of thing would surely cause a panic. The war ended a while ago, and the enchanted blade wielders are seen as heroes. Seeing Owl take over the sky on your way to work would be more than a little bit unsettling. Finding Samura is as simple as tracing Owl's spirit energy back to its source. And because it is an enchanted blade detector, if Chihiro draws Enten, Samura might try to kill him. Chihiro's expression was grim, but on the upside, it means that they probably don't need to track Samura down since they can initiate a fight whenever they want to. As it currently stands, they're the Kamunabi's best countermeasure against Samura. They can evade Samura's detection in the midst of a fight. So while they were previously the only ones that could fight by his side, now they are the best group to take him on. Even still, they'd rather make him come to his senses instead of kill him. The Kamunabi want to remove Samura as a threat as soon as possible. But then again, Samura is the only one who can put pressure on the Hisaku right now. Currently, he is the only fully fledged enchanted blade user. And I really like how powerful that's made out to be by having him stand toe-to-toe, if not above, 2 major organizations. They want to avoid the Hisaku making the first move and forcing them to act, because in that case, innocent people could be harmed. And that is something Chihiro is vehemently against, especially when it comes to the enchanted blades. If they rush off into a fight with Samura without knowing more about what Hisaku is up to, it could totally backfire. There was a contemplative pause to their discussion. Ultimately, the commander broke it by telling him not to draw Enten. Chihiro wondered if there's a plan. And there is. They actually have leverage. Elsewhere, the Kamunabi were discussing the existence of a potential hostage. Their fourth leader referred to them as Samura's only weakness. He opened up a binder and pointed to Samura's daughter. With her, they could have had Samura right where they wanted him, but sadly, a bit over 2 years ago, she died of acute heart failure. Chihiro was surprised. He had no idea that Samura had a daughter. In the past, the Masumi visited Samura's family. Samura and his wife divorced a long time ago, and were living apart from one another. Chihiro presumed it to be a dead end since Samura's daughter is dead. But the commander realized something when he heard that Samura killed Chihiro once and he came back to life. Maybe death is how Samura distances himself from those he cares about. Now the others were catching on, while Chihiro was still confused. The other guy explained that while they were working for Samura, he only made use of their skills as ninja one time, and that was to fake his daughter's death. Again, Chihiro was surprised. 3 years ago, the contracted swordbearers and their families were placed under constant protection and surveillance. Their activities were limited for the sake of safety. Samura resented the fact that his daughter had to endure that because of him, and it seems like he anticipated this sort of situation and didn't want the Kamunabi to use her against him, which is to say that Samura's daughter is currently living under a secret identity. Chihiro was against using her as a hostage, but that's not what the commander had in mind. They would never do that and don't plan on involving her in the fight. That's not the important part. There's no way the Hisaku plan on obediently fighting Samura once he holds up his end of the bargain. He is known for his lethality. It would be a death sentence for them. So they must have something in mind that would protect them from his wrath. And Samura only has one weakness. The other guy wasn't convinced that they'd be able to use her as leverage since she's undetectable. But between the convenience of the timing and small inconsistencies with the fake body and false medical records, they may have been able to figure out that she's still alive. But even so, tracking her down should still be impossible thanks to the spell that was cast on her. With it, other people can't recognize her as Samura's daughter. Even if she met him, she wouldn't realize that she's his daughter either. Samura was willing to sever the memory of their connection to one another for the sake of keeping her safe and free. That is the extent of her undetectability. But the Hisaku killed Chihiro's dad, and they undid the seal on Shinichi in only 3 years. Their sorcery isn't to be underestimated, even if there are precautions in place. Chihiro asked if there's any way to be sure that the spell is still intact. The female member stated that if there's a change, she'll be able to detect it. Thus far, there hasn't been an issue. So now we know that it's her ability. But what happens if she dies? Which in this series is a very real possibility. Virtually every elite squad like theirs ends up being slaughtered in some way, and their lack of individual names doesn't make that prospect any brighter. With the worst case scenario in mind, it's in their best interest to assess the situation for themselves. If the Hisaku is betting on using her as leverage against Samura, then taking her into custody would serve as a counter to both groups. With the plan confirmed, Chihiro then asked about her current whereabouts, which takes us to Kyoto. And as usual, the scenery work of this series is incredible. We're then brought to 2 people in a market. These are 2 Hisaku members that we haven't seen before. One was admiring the cuts of salmon and wanted to cut something too. His name is Kuguri. The girl with him complained about him carrying an enchanted blade that he can't even use yet. So this is one of the 2 yet to be named blades. Kuguri retorted that he needs to deepen his understanding of it before then. According to Sojo, it's important to do so. So even now, Sojo still has an impact on the series. She asked if he felt anything happening, but the fanatic doesn't feel a thing. Since it's contracted to someone else, his love is still one-sided. She was grossed out by the comparison. She let him know that Yura sent a message to each team, that it's almost time. I wonder how many teams there are. Kuguri complained about Hiruhiko's half-assed tactics and kills, making things harder for them, along with the fact that Yura spoils him. So I guess we can expect the opposite from him. She told him not to talk like that. Yura and the others are limited for the moment. Hiruhiko is in rehab and can't touch the enchanted blade. Interestingly, Kuguri feels bad for him, so he isn't part of one of the active teams. Hiruhiko's new arm does not have a Hisaku tattoo on it. Maybe that says something about what his allegiances will be in the future. The wording of not being able to touch his enchanted blade as opposed to wielding it is interesting. He was able to use it with his teeth like Zoro just fine. So is it a literal restriction or one imposed by Hisaku? Whatever the case, Kuguri was pleased that they'd be able to kill since it's been a while. She asked if he's excited. Their mission is to kidnap a kid, so she thinks it'll be fun. He asks about the target's location, but she has no idea. According to Yura, she can't be found. So as far as Kuguri can tell, this is a risky gamble. And it seems to him like Hiruhiko is just like Yura. But the man also said that if they want, they'll reveal the goods, whatever that means. But if their mission is to capture Samura's daughter, I have to wonder what the other teams might be up to. And because these two look pretty young, they probably weren't involved in the killing of Chihiro's dad. We're then given another glimpse of Owl's looming presence, followed by Samura's daughter in a classroom. Chihiro will have to protect and secure her while not being fully healed and without using N10. He also has to get used to working with his new team. Although he is very powerful, he is still not on the same level as he contracted sword bearers, enchanted blade or not. Uruha is more skilled than him, and he was no match for Samura. So Chihiro will need to go even further if he wants to make a real difference in the battles to come. Without N10 being involved, it'll be interesting to see how he compares to Kuguri, who will be an enchanted blade user in the future. So far, this series has quite the trend of hostage situations. I'm looking forward to seeing if Samura's daughter has any sorcery potential of her own, or if she's really just a normal girl. Kagurabachi is really cool right now, and I feel like talking about it. This is a new addition to the channel, so I really appreciate you checking out the video and making it this far. If you'd like to see more, let us know. As always, I'm Slice of Otaku, thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.